flame-grilled burger, crispiest and most tender, double 100% beef patties, two generous slices of cheese, a Queen's Savor deal, exclusive double XL bacon strips, succulent, freshly baked toasted sesame buns, and our signature secret ingredient. You want it, you buy it, you love it. Why buy 100 when you only need one? Undeniably satisfying. %98 success rate. The magic burger that makes you not need to eat for an entire 12 months. Committed to ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, fulfill their ultimate potential.
Business optimism is at an all-time high and unemployment is at a 17-year low. Has hailed the fact that the jobless rate among Black Americans fell to a historic low in December. But the picture is more complicated than that.
There is a level of desperation.
He's not officially allowed to work.
You cannot open bank account, you cannot rent a house. You kind of like... we have been persecuted in China.
The job search is tough.
As President Trump hails the drop in unemployment among Black Americans, our correspondents meet people in Washington still struggling to find a job.
But that's become much more difficult.
It's very uncomfortable to talk about race. It's not something I do. I am feeling apprehensive. I think there's a lot of reasons why I feel like I should be able to talk about race.
I don't want to say anything. You know.
The same histories of struggle are repeated every year. The Atlantic slave trade, civil rights movement, and South Africa's apartheid.
We subtly reinforced the idea, which was argued by serious historians at one point, that Africa has no history, by teaching transatlantic slavery and Martin Luther King.
From histories such as the societies of ancient Egypt to the richest person ever, the 14th century King Mansa Musa of Mali enforces the idea that Black people's history is not a part of American, Canadian, or European history.
When we talk about, Black History Month,
more than 2 million Africans were killed between 1914 and 1918, both civilians and soldiers. Many were forced to fight for their colonial masters. France recruited more Africans than any other colonial power.
It's a very touchy subject.
Especially for white people because...
to have a dialogue about it.
I don't know. Maybe I am racist. I certainly don't like to think that I am.
Income inequality is often cited as an important factor in holding people back. But a new analysis suggests Black boys and Black men face economic disadvantages even if they start off from a similar point of income and wealth as their white counterparts.
It's Black History Month in the UK. If you're in the US, you won't celebrate until February. Normally marked by lessons in schools and events across the country, there's also some disagreement over how the subject should be discussed and taught. Who gets to decide what represents Black history?
A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots.
So this is the issue, that why aren't these things taught? So that the question really comes down to who makes decisions about what kind of education our young people get. Unfortunately, we live in a society which does not want to recognise the true nature of Britain's history, whether it's related to people of African origin, Indian origin, Britain's history in relation to the empire, to the enslavement and trafficking of people, to the crimes that have been committed. These things, there is you could say a conspiracy to hide this history so that people do not understand the world in which they live.
Are they hiding the history, or have they just not...
They are hiding the history.
You're going to relegate my history to a month? Which month is White History Month? I don't want a Black History Month.
They're not alone to suffer this threat. All minorities present suffer from the same repression.
And our history is a history of
the Kazakhs,
African people, indigenous people, Europeans, conquistadores, all these different people colliding, many times not with their consent.
There's a community that gets built regardless of which specific country you're coming from.
It's used to divide Native people against each other.
You can't lump us all into one group, but we can agree that economy, education, healthcare, those are all top issues for Latinos.
China's crackdown on the Muslim Uyghur minority. Entire families are forced out of their homes, their houses left empty, and they disappear overnight.
Look. The whole point is, if American wealth is a lottery, we are increasingly playing two different games. Okay, so now the lottery for those who were born poor. Okay. You've probably noticed that a disproportionate percentage of these balls are black and brown. Ignore that, it's illustrative of nothing. I can't stress that enough.
How do we bring these more positive stories to light? What needs to change to gain greater recognition and respect?
I think that impulse, that kind of colorblindness impulse, comes mostly from white people. Like, let's do this as a way of getting past this racism thing. And I think in part it comes from a sense of shame.
I definitely went through a lot of phases of being unaware of injustice and then seeing injustice but not knowing how to process that. I'm probably the only person here.
I didn't know that Nigeria contributed to the war effort. I didn't know that my ancestors had contributed not just financially from the government but actually fighting. That would give me a rooting in this country, would help me understand my identity. And I think that's what we're missing here.
We tend to lose ourselves in the lies fed to us, lose sight of what's true and what's not.